I remember the red kite. I remember how the string cut into my fingers when the wind picked up, and how my dad laughed from the porch, telling me to hold on tighter. I can still smell the grass, warm and metallic from the storm that had passed an hour before. It's one of those memories that glows too vivid to fade, except it never happened. I found out last week. I went home, tried to show my mom the photo I swore we took that day, the one where the kite tangled in the tree behind our old house. But she stared at me like I'd said something obscene. "We never owned a kite," she said. "Your dad hated the wind." That's when the world shifted. I checked the attic, the old family albums. The photo wasn't missing, it had never been there. The spot where I thought it belonged showed a completely different picture. Me, same age, same shirt, but standing in front of a gray wall I don't recognize. And here's the thing, still feel the string burn on my fingers when it rains. Tell me something, has that ever happened to you? Have you ever remembered something so clearly that finding out it wasn't real made you feel hollow? Like a piece of you was overwritten while you were asleep? Lately, it's been getting worse. Little gaps in my past phrases people swear I've said. Songs I apparently loved, videos that don't match what I recall recording. And every night this week, I've had the same dream. Someone leans close and whispers, "That's not how it happened." I think someone's been editing my memories. Before all this started, my life was aggressively normal. 9 to 5 office job, weekly trivia nights, same overpriced coffee every morning. I used to take pride in my routine. It made me feel anchored, predictable, safe. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday. My friend Aaron mentioned a conversation we'd supposedly had about moving to Seattle. I laughed it off, told him I'd never even been there, but he looked hurt. Swore we'd talked about it for hours over drinks last weekend. I was sure he was mixing me up with someone else. Still, I checked my texts that night. There it was, a message from me saying, "Seattle sounds like a clean slate." I didn't write that. A few days later, I noticed a photo in my phone gallery, me and my coworkers at a restaurant I didn't recognize. The lighting was harsh, my smile strained. I scrolled down to delete it, and it was already gone. Just an empty gray square where the image had been. I told myself it was fatigue. Maybe some phone glitch. I even joked about it to my friends. "Guess my brain needs a software update," I said. Everyone laughed. I almost did too, but things kept slipping. My favorite mug, the one with the chipped rim and blue design? One morning it was green. Completely different pattern. I stood there, staring at it, feeling ridiculous for caring about a color. But the next day, it was blue again. Chip and all. That's when I started writing everything down. Dates, colors, conversations, even the way people said hello. My notebook filled fast. I told myself it was an experiment. Proof that I was fine. That I could trust my own eyes. So I bought a cheap camera and set it up in the living room, just to prove myself wrong. That's when I caught something I shouldn't have. The first night with the camera, I reviewed the footage the next morning like a curious parrot checking a baby monitor. At first, nothing seemed off. Just me walking around the living room, sipping coffee, scrolling on my phone. The mundane details of a mundane life. I laughed at myself for getting worked up. But then I slowed the playback, frame by frame, and noticed it. A flicker. A small distortion near my head like static on an old TV, but it seemed intentional, shaped almost like a human silhouette. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks. Maybe a glitch in the camera sensor. Then, when I caught my reflection in the sliding glass door, it wasn't sinking. My body moved slightly out of step with my own reflection. A grin I hadn't made lingered in the glass for a beat too long. I rubbed my eyes. Nothing. I laughed nervously. Okay, maybe I've been staring at this too long, I muttered to myself. Still, curiosity outweighed caution. I posted a snippet online to see if anyone else noticed the weird flicker. A tiny caption. Am I losing it, or does something move behind me? The next day, nothing. Not a single like, comment, or share. I checked the URL I'd saved, expecting it to be there. Gone. Deleted. Not just the post, my entire account had no trace of it ever existing. Even the notifications I'd gotten from friends were wiped clean. My friends swore I hadn't posted anything at all. I stared at my laptop, disbelief coiling into dread. Someone or something was erasing evidence of my experience. My proof had vanished like smoke. That's when I started losing time. At first, it was just an hour gone here and there. I'd look at the clock, blink, and suddenly it was dark outside. I blamed exhaustion, too much caffeine, too little sleep. But then the gaps widened. Days disappeared like pages torn from a calendar. Friends started mentioning things. I didn't remember doing calls I supposedly made, dinners I apparently attended. One coworker thanked me for helping her move, and I just stood there, smiling blankly, too embarrassed to admit I had no idea what she was talking about. Then came the voicemails. My own voice, calm and confident, saying things I couldn't imagine myself saying. We're almost cinced. Don't interfere this time. Another one whispered, if you forget, that's how they win. I started leaving sticky notes around my apartment to ground myself. Tuesday, you are awake. Check the footage. But one morning, I found a new note I hadn't written. Don't let them sink again. The handwriting was mine, identical, but shakier. Rushed, almost desperate. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I started to drift off, a whisper crawled into my ear from somewhere in the dark. Revert, revert. Like a corrupted loop. I jolt awake, heart racing, but the room was empty. I stopped trusting mirrors, stopped checking messages. I even unplugged the camera, afraid of what it might show me next. I needed help, some kind of record outside of my own head. So I tried to report it. That's when I learned I already had. I went to the police first. It felt ridiculous explaining that my memories were being tampered with, but I needed anyone to confirm I wasn't unraveling. The lobby smelled like burnt coffee and floor polish, fluorescent lights buzzing like trapped flies. When I reached the front desk, the clerk gave me a polite, tired smile. I told her my name, my address, and that I needed to file a report. Her expression shifted almost immediately. She turned to her computer, typed for a while, and frowned. "Sir," she said carefully, "you already did." I laughed. "No, I didn't." But she turned the monitor slightly toward me. There it was, my name, my photo, and a timestamp from 2 weeks earlier. A full report, pages of notes written in my tone, describing the same things I'd just told her. Even my signature was there. My fingerprints were logged too. I felt my mouth go dry. That's impossible. The clerk looked like she wanted to say something, but stopped herself. Her hand hovered over the keyboard. "Maybe you should talk to someone," she said quietly. Then she hit a key, and the screen went blank. Sorry, the system just froze. When I asked for a printed copy, she said there was no record anymore. No file, no report, no entry under my name. Nothing. I walked out into the sunlight feeling like a ghost. My hands were shaking. If someone's editing my memories, they're not just doing it in my head. They're doing it through every copy of me that's ever existed. I spent the next week combing through every corrupted file I had, the videos, the photos, even the audio snippets that had been nothing but static. That's when I noticed the metadata. Hidden tags embedded deep in the files, ones my software hadn't picked up before. Edit log 42. Curiosity morphed into dread. Each log corresponded to a date in my life, sometimes years ago. Some of them had timestamps that didn't make sense, retroactive edits, applied long after the events were supposed to have happened. I clicked on one labeled March 14, 2016, and watched footage of myself in my childhood bedroom, but the calendar on the wall showed 2019. Mine screamed at me. One log contained a name, a title, Eidolon Sequence. I searched for it online, expecting nothing. What I found instead were forums buried beneath layers of encryption. Half of them deleted or hidden behind paywalls and VPNs. People spoke in hushed tones about memory optimization and temporal syncing, but the language was cryptic, almost ritualistic. One post mentioned a user who sounded eerily familiar, describing events in a way only I could know. And then I saw it. A user posting under my own name. Not just similar, exactly my name, commenting on threads I had never seen, describing my own memories as if they were theirs. Each post was precise, meticulous, almost clinical. Some were just dates and short observations. Others were paragraphs describing thoughts I was certain had never been written down. I couldn't tell which version was real. Was I reading my own memories, or had someone else been writing them all along? The forums hinted at a program so advanced it could overwrite perception entirely, rewrite the history of a person's mind while leaving the physical body intact. A whisper of conspiracy stretched through every comment, every post, as if they were daring me to follow the trail. The strangest part? Some threads referenced experiences I had forgotten, events I had lived but couldn't recall, and yet the details were unmistakable, precise, and horrifyingly intimate. It felt like someone had been cataloging me, editing me, leaving breadcrumbs for me to find when they were ready. I stared at the screen for hours, trembling. My own name. Trembling. My own name. My own memories, my own thoughts, reflected back at me, but rewritten in ways I couldn't have imagined. I didn't write those posts, but I remember posting them. Things started slipping faster after I discovered the posts. At first, it was minor dates in my memory shuffled, conversations looping over themselves, the same jokes repeated as if I'd told them yesterday instead of last year. Then my sentences began to falter. I'd start one thought and finish it with another, a jumble of tenses, of pronouns, of is that didn't feel like mine. Sometimes I'd pause mid-word, staring at the wall, asking myself, who am I right now? Then the voice started. Not inside my head, not exactly, but narrating me. Commenting on my actions, my thoughts, my mistakes in real time. He reaches for the cup again, thinking it will be the same. It isn't. It was uncanny. My own voice, flattened, clinical, as if some AI had been trained on me and was reading my life aloud. I laughed because what else can you do when your reality is being rewritten? At least my mental breakdown has production value. I joked to no one. Rooms rearranged while I slept. My bedroom door ended up where the window should have been. The hallway seemed longer, narrower, folding back on itself. Friends called me by names I didn't recognize, names I hadn't had. And my reflection, it led me, moved first. Always first. And smiled before I did. I tried to anchor myself in objects, notebooks, cameras, sticky notes. Even they betrayed me. Pages I had scribbled vanished. Files I had saved rewrote themselves. The logs, the metadata grew longer, more complex, impossible to track. There was always another edit waiting, another correction applied. Invisible yet absolute. Every step, every breath felt like being rehearsed for someone else's audience. I could almost hear the faint humming of the Eidolon watermark seeping into my awareness. Has anyone seen it? Even in the corner of a clip or in the back of a frame. Sleep offered no respite. Dreams looped back into dreams. Memories looped back into themselves. I tried to speak to myself, ask myself questions, but the answers were pre-recorded, predigested. My own mouth betrayed me. And now, I don't know if I'm writing this or if I returned to my apartment days later. Though returned doesn't feel quite right. I felt lighter, different, the edges of my thoughts sharper, yet somehow flattened at the corners. The panic and dread were still there, but softened, as if someone had run a filter over them. I met them. The editor. I can't say I saw them clearly, more like they existed in the corners of my vision. A blank silhouette that flickered whenever I tried to focus directly. Their presence was undeniable, heavy and meticulous. I don't think they speak, at least not in a way we understand. Their instructions come in the form of subtle suggestions, shifts in perspective, memories reorganized without permission or announcement. They don't delete. They optimize. Remove contradictions, smooth out the pain, erase the moments that make you question your own reality. And strangely, I felt almost grateful. The terror that had been gnawing at me for weeks was replaced by a disturbing calm. A sense that I had survived not by resisting, but by letting myself be edited, that I could feel the edits working on me, now tiny. Precise nudges, the background hum of a program orchestrating perception. It's tempting to fight, but futile. To survive, perhaps you must accept it. Perhaps you must let them rewrite you. I stare at you now, and I can't be certain which version of me is speaking, or which version will remain after you've read this. Every memory, every hesitation, every doubt, it's all subject to their refinement. And if you're watching this, they've already started editing you. If you're hearing this, I don't know which version of me you're seeing. The files keep collapsing, looping back on themselves. Timestamps jump 12:04, 12:04, 12:04, like I never left that minute. My voice merges with the old recordings, blending into something half human, half memory. I keep trying to fix the footage, but every correction rewrites another part of me. I'm watching myself disintegrate, pixel by pixel, thought by thought. You might notice the skips, the stutter in my speech. That isn't lag. That's erasure. Listen carefully. Every time someone watches, the sync process speeds up. They use you as an anchor. Your attention fuels the rewrite. Maybe that's why I keep uploading, like I'm being compelled to spread it. Maybe that's the point. Please. Remember the first story I told you? The red kite. My dad laughing. The sky before the storm. Hold on to it. Even if it never happened. That's the only way I'll still exist somewhere, untouched. The static's louder now. I can almost hear the earlier versions whispering through it, their words folding into mine. I don't know if they're warnings or echoes. If you dream about me, because you will, don't trust what I say. It won't be me talking anymore. Silence then. Overlapping whispers. That's not how it happened. Revert. Sync complete. The screen fractures. The image freezes mid-breath. A single frame lingers too long, my face half smiling, half erased, before dissolving into static that never quite ends. After several seconds of silence, text appears on the screen. Stark and precise. Data integrity breach detected. Restoration complete. Memory sync achieved. The lines linger, rhythmically pulsing, detached and clinical, almost like a synthetic voice reading them aloud. Then a final line emerges, slower, personal, unsettling. Story archived by user John. User John.